All right, so with the wiring on the Mustang, it kind of looks like a lot, right? I want to reuse all the factory wiring, and it's actually not too bad. You can see all the modules, lights, there's wiring everywhere. I want to use it all. I have to keep a lot of the modules so, you know, it starts correctly. I can use all the modern switches and the modern stuff. You can see up here, I've kind of wired. This is the headlight stuff, horn, fog turn lamp. It's really pretty easy. What I do is you've got to get an owner's manual for the actual vehicle. So for this one, obviously it's a 2016 Mustang. I'll go to Mitchell1DIY.com and you can look up the vehicle. I'll buy the owner's manual, or not the owner's manual, but a wiring harness manual for that vehicle, and I can literally go plug by plug, every single module, explain what every single piece and wire does, what the voltage is, what the gauge size is, and it's super easy to get through it. It takes some time digging through online on Mitchell 1 DIY, but it's like 20 bucks. You basically rent this manual for a year, and you can get through everything and pick every single wiring out, see what it does in the harness, and then integrate it into old lights, or integrate the modern stuff into the old stuff and make everything work seamlessly. So it's not bad. With the Mustang, this truck build, I'm not using like the doors. So like on this car, the door would open up, a light would come on, it'd say door ajar on the dash. I didn't want that to happen. So all I did was looked in the there's a bunch of modules back here. You can see up in there. I looked up which one was for the door, and took me some time. I found it, basically grounded it out or gave it a 12-volt source. Most of them I just ground out, and then it says the door's shut. So no matter what, I cancel out that part of that factory 2016 harness. The door will always say it's shut, and I'm not gonna have an indicator on my dash that the door's open. So it's really not bad. It's just, you've got to have a wiring schematic. If, I see a lot of guys ask about, hey, do you have a schematic for this? Do you have one for that? Spend 20 bucks, get the schematic and go through it, and you can do anything. Even on these modern vehicles, they can be complicated with a ton of modules that control everything. But if you got a schematic, it's literally just finding the right color. It's going to tell you what it does, and then you can make it work. So the other big piece of the puzzle with wiring is one of these power probes. So it's super nice. You can basically put power to a source and give it 12 volts. You can test circuits. You can test turn a headlight switch on, test a wire, and it'll tell you I got 12 volts. Or if you're wanting to test this light, here I could attach a ground, power this wire, and the light's going to turn on. So things like that, a power probe is super nice to be able to troubleshoot and work through circuitry. You can verify it on a schematic and then double check it with something like this really easily. And then it's really just getting a soldering iron and splicing in the wires. For the rear lights, basically, here's the setup we have. So this is the rear Mustang, right? It's LED, it's got 3 flashers. It flashes sequential. I broke one down, and here's kind of what it looks like. You've got the middle light here, and then you've got a right and a left. It plugs into this, and that's kind of how the sequential works in that way. The plan is I have to use my old buckets here for this light. So if you look at this, this is the rear bucket for the passenger side. It's going to go in the truck, kind of like this. But obviously I want to integrate the lights. So pulled out, this is for the rear lights, all these lights, or all these wires. You can kind of break it down and see what does what. That's probably it for the rear. The backup camera, and then the tail lights, obviously. The front is going to have the headlights, and really I'm just going to extend the plugs. So I'll extend the wiring to the back, and then I'll have the factory Mustang plugs. And the way I'm going to make that work is basically I'm plugging into this, and I'm just going to use this center one. So I'm looking and I'm thinking that center piece is going to be able to fit in this housing right here. So I'm gonna cut this off and trim this up and epoxy it basically. So this, you can see the LEDs are in here. I can trim down all this other stuff, trim down the back of this here, and basically inlay that LED circuitry into this, and then I've got my, you know, Mustang LED lights in the old buckets. So let's give it a shot. So here is the finished project or product with the taillights. I've got the factory buckets. I epoxied in the LEDs, cut them down, made them fit. Everything looks pretty good. So the lights, I fixed up the wiring, cleaned it up a little bit in the back here. We've got a couple modules still here. Got an immobilizer. That's the module for the rear lights, LED stuff, some other stuff. Kind of clean the wiring up. I want the modules to be protected from the weather, so I may make a little box. I also want access to them as well as the 2 fuel pumps. So I'll have something here where I can have access. One, I could climb in through the back underneath if I ever needed to change any of that stuff. I'm gonna make a panel that patches in right here. I could hinge that so it actually flips up and I could reach in through the cab and get to that stuff. Option 3 is, however I finish the bed, I could make it so it lifts up on struts, and then I can access it that way too. So we'll see, but let's give this a shot and see if these fancy LEDs work here. They fit in the buckets just fine. Here, if I can do this with my one and a half hands. So come in here, fit in there perfectly. Okay. So got my lights up here, they're plugged in. This was routed, you can see. I'm gonna clean this up and get some loom and run it all along here. We've got the backup camera light here, my other tail light there. Really, this is it for the back end. I'm gonna pull out, I think this plug right here has the license plate light. Need to run that back too. Looking at the license plates, it's supposed to go here. I want to put exhaust tips in there just because I think it's cool with the unibody and that recessed oil or pan in the back. So I want to put tail or exhaust in there. I don't know what I'm going to do with the license plate. I might just put it up here, maybe magnet it down here, whatever. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I can make it work, but I want to use the recession in the pan for tips because I think it looks cool. So let's get the keys and batteries hooked up. Okay. She starts. Let's see if I can get the lights back there. Brake lights work, blinkers work, sweet. We've got lights. Okay, the only issue is you can see that fast blinks. The fast blink is only in the dash because I pulled out, if you guys remember, I pulled out the two inner, or the inner and outer LED. So they kind of need that resistance for it to blink correctly. The rear light doesn't blink fast, which is usually the issue. And I would definitely fix that, but beans I pulled the inner and outer out of here, which I don't need. I don't need backup or reverse lights. So I did get some little resistors. I could wire those in this back part and give some resistance. They're just 6 ohm, maybe if I wire a 6 on each inner and outer LED light. So they think they're there, and then I don't get a fast blink in the actual dash. I may give that a shot. So overall, worked out great. I'm gonna finish the other tail light, and we'll keep cracking on. Thanks. Subscribe, like, if you want some more content.